program leader, and today is our second session. I want to use the chance and say thank you for every volunteer current Chevener who are doing our session and who is our volunteer. And I want to say that today is a very special day for us. It's already 1 year since the global mentorship session and program started. So last year, brilliant 18 scholar help us, current Chevener, who are here right now and doing the same job like last year. So today's speakers, we have also 3 speakers. And guys, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me? Uh, okay, I will start first. My name is Dzung. I'm from Vietnam. I'm currently studying a Master of Epidemiology at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And I was exactly like you last year. So I do hope that you're gonna be us next year and to be a presenter. So good luck.
Hi everyone, I'm Amr from Egypt. I'm currently studying applied infectious disease epidemiology at UCL, and I wish you all the best for this fall.
Hello, my name is Vane. I am currently studying urban transport at the University of Glasgow, and I'm hoping we're going to have an interactive session and we will be able to help you and guide you towards the next steps.
Let's move on. And Zung, I think you're the first one who are presenting. So go ahead. Good luck.
Okay, hi. Well, greetings everyone, and once again, congratulations for being shortlisted. So today I will share with you my 3 tips to prepare for the interview, which I call the 3P, and which is prepare, practice, and plan. And yes, it sounds obvious, but it's probably not. So bear with me. So the first P is to prepare for the interview. You may have received and you can easily find a long list of possible questions. These questions give you a very clear picture of how the interview is going to be. However, the downside of it is that it has too many specific and sparse because it's based on others' essays. So if you go too deep into those questions, you could be over detailed and your story could be unlinked together. So my advice would be you group all those questions into a few teams called the umbrella question, which are exactly for essays like leadership, networking, career plan, and your UK life. And then secondly, you use a technique called 5 why and 1 how, which means that you start from those umbrella questions and keep asking yourself until you get to the root cause of your motivation. Like for example, for me, I ask myself why medicine, why public health, and then why epidemiology, and then why cancer epidemiology. So by asking yourself those questions, you will have like very clear and coherent motivation. And lastly, always think of the cost benefit in every answer. Okay, so you imagine yourself, you go to the supermarket and you have the products with the same price. Which one do you choose? Obviously, you want to choose the one with the best value to you. So keep that mindset and step into the panel shoes. You're gonna ask what makes you stand out compared to others is how much benefit you're gonna bring to them. Now you have to think about the stakeholders like Chevening, your relationship between 2 countries, and your countries, your field, and also yourself. Here you can also show how to strengthen the relationship between 2 countries, which is also the very great benefit. So let's go to the second P, is practice. If you answer the question in order, and when the panel mix it, you will be caught off guard. So everything you prepare might collapse. So like for example, my first question that the interviewer asked me is, uh, do you want to change any of your university? So I was like, oh my God. But of course, because I try to, I have prepared, and the way I prepare is that I ask any random questions at any random time, anywhere I go, like why I'm on the road, or why I'm cooking, or why I'm doing the dish. I ask any random umbrella question, and then I keep start from there and keep asking why, and why, so that my story could be natural and I can get ready for in any unexpected situation. Secondly, you should have at least 2 mock interviews. Well, actually, as many as possible. And you have to choose the diverse panel, because the real panels will have diverse background. Well, I would suggest to have at least one Chevening alumni, because they know the process. They've been through everything you do. And of course, it would be great if someone in the same field, because they can ask you the extensive questions, especially in your country, in your field. But also very difficult or very important to have those in different fields, because you can simplify your answer without using any jargons. Because in my experience, I have an alumni who is not in medical. So she asked me very basic question, and if I use jargon, she doesn't understand. And so that is why how I could focus more on my stories rather than the how skill or how good I am in my professional. While the last P is plan for the failure. I know it's unpleasant to think about the failure, but trust me, it will happen, because, well, we have to face the fact that we only control about 80% of the chance to get the scholarship, which are your application and your interview performance. The rest is out of our hands, no matter what, like politics, finance, and also your lucks. So you have to ask yourself, keep asking, uh, if you fail, like not because you are not good, but because you are not the most suitable candidates at that time. So you got to ask, if I fail, why? What the factors that make me not suitable enough? And how can I improve my incompetency the next time? For me, when I think about that, I could think that, well, the reason I might fail was that I lack of the leadership experience. So that I immediately came up with the strategy to apply for the proposal and to organize another project that I am a leader, so that the next cohort I will be better at leadership. Also, for you have more plan Bs, actually, like as much plan as possible, A, B, C, D, because like you have to look for other opportunities like school scholarship, other countries scholarship, and also many country have their national funds. So you have to go back to your motivation. Like, do you want to study or do you want chevening? If you want to go to advance your career, any type of scholarship will help, and you have to expand on your opportunities as much as possible. So yeah, that is my 3P. I do hope that it can help. And now I would hand over to my friend
Well, thank you, Dzung, for your interesting presentation. Uh, First, it's my pleasure to be with all of you today. Second, I want to start by congratulating all of you for making it this far. It really proves how good you are. It proves you have the leadership qualities you need and how influential you are in your fields. Third, I just want to declare that what I'll be sharing with you today is my own experience and how I prepared for the interview, and I do not officially represent Chevening in any matter of this. Fourth, I'll be trying to be quick in order to get as many questions as possible later. So let's start into it. My presentation is going to be just 3 slides. The first one, we are going to walk through how to prepare or how I prepared for the interview. The second, a couple of points you need to know before going into the interview. And the third one, what are you expected, are you expected to behave, and what are you going to do during the interview? Next, please, then. Well, um, for preparation for the interview, now you know that you are invited to the interview. After preparing your slot for the interview, you need to check for your documents. You just go over the documents you submitted, everything starting from the work experience, the data about you, everything, just read it very quickly in order to make sure there is no problem. Also to check the references, you have uploaded the correct references. And then you go to the most important part to be reviewed. You should know your essays by heart. This is actually the vast majority of what you are expected to be during the interview. You have to read them very actively, and by actively, I mean that you read the essay, what you write, and then you start asking yourself questions on your essays. Do they make sense? So after reading them as many times as possible so that you know them by heart, you start predicting the questions. After you have written the essays, maybe 6 months ago or something, you may be familiar that you just skipped parts, that some parts of your essays could have been clearer, it could have been written in a better way to be understood. So there is always a room for improvement. So I think that's where you should start predicting the questions. I will tell you my own experience for predicting the questions. For the leadership and the networking questions, I was asked 2 follow-up questions in each. I was able to predict the 4 questions before I go to the interview. And trust me, it really helps. Because yes, when you're not taken just by surprise, you have to prepare for surprises, definitely. But me predicting the questions in advance, I was able to predict what questions might be asked during the interview, and it really helped a lot. And then you start preparing the answers. My fellow colleagues have talked about how to be organized. You have to follow a strategy. In case you have not written your essays in the STAR and SMART approaches, you have to organize your essays now. The STAR approach, very quickly, you have to mention everything for the leadership and the networking questions. You start by the situation. Well, what was the situation through which you had the capacity to be a leader? Then the task, what you had to do, and the action, then what you actually did, and then the result. Because I'm not going to go into details, you can just search them, and my fellow colleagues touched upon this technique earlier. And then the SMART approach for the career objectives, it's really important to go with the SMART approach. And if you are able to be organized, you are already 50% through. You are halfway through acing the interview. So it's really important to prepare your answers, check that they make sense, that the story is told in a coherent way, that the one who's going to listen is not you, so he should be able to understand what you are saying. And then the final part, practice. And then when you are done practicing, practice again, and then practice again. It's really important just to practice. You can record yourself just through WhatsApp sound or anything, and you keep on listening to yourself again. Because when we just read, okay, well, I'm familiar with this, but when you start talking the story, it might not make sense, or you might need to read this part again. So it's really important to practice for as many times as possible. And then after practicing, you have to do mock interviews, as my fellow colleague said, and I believe it's the most important part, doing mock interviews. I believe that if you had as many mock interviews as possible, you are going to ace your interview. And one final thing for the preparation for interview, it's important to watch your pace. The pace is important. The pace is how you deliver your story, is how you deliver who you really are. you should be able to show them how good you are. If you talk too fast, they won't be able to catch up. So you won't be able to prove to them that you are really good. And if you talk too slowly, as humans, when we listen to very long stories, we get bored and we just lose them during the talk. So it's really important neither to be too fast nor to be too slow. Just the correct pace and average pace that allows whoever is listening, the panel, to be engaged with you and concentrate with you. Next, please, then. Then a couple of points, what you need to know about the interview. It's mostly about your essays. The vast majority of the questions is going to be about your essays. You might be asked other questions, but most of them are going to be the leadership, the networking example, although it differs according to country and according to the panelists. In some countries, they just ask you, tell us examples about when you were a leader. In other panelists tell you just one example, because when I had my interview in Egypt last year, they told us just one example. We want to know one example, and you have, as a part of the organization we mentioned earlier, you have to prioritize the examples you are going to do. Well, if they told me one example, this is my best. This is the one that show the best leadership qualities in me. So you have to be familiar with what sequence you should be talking, because you might be asked to mention one, two, or you might be just tell us whatever you want. So take this into consideration while preparing for the leadership, the networking examples. And then for the career objectives, as we said earlier, it has to be smart, and you start with the short, medium, and long. There should be no problem in this. And finally, if you are going to be asked about the UK and the Chevening, I think, May, you correct me, we can talk about this more clearly in the question and answer session, right?
You can continue now if you want. We can also continue as a question, and like it's feel free, up to you. Go ahead. How do you want?
Okay, thank you. Okay, maybe we can answer it as a part of the question and answer, because there is actually a lot to say in this. And then the second point is that time is crucial. The time of the interview, it differs. I know some scholars that had an interview of 15 or 20 minutes and they got the scholarship. I know other applicants who said for an hour and a half long interview and they still got the scholarship. So just be prepared for everything. It can be either too short, it can be too long. Most probably it's going to be around 30 minutes for most people. It's like this. So organizing yourself, prioritizing what you are going to say is really important for the timing of the interview, because in especially countries where there is a high number of applicants, the panelists might tell you, well, there is a specific duration. It's going to be 30 minutes, and you cannot have time for longer time. So be prepared, prioritize yourself, and be organized. Next slide, please, then. Well, during the interview, just a few tips. First, be coherent through good organization. You will make sense when you are coherent. You can take a pause. There is no problem. You are not expected to just keep on talking without stopping. You can take a brief pause, reorganizing yourself if you need to. The second thing is be honest. I personally know people who have not been honest, and it's why actually the panelists ask some follow-up questions. When the story doesn't make much sense or there is a bit something that doesn't make sense, they will ask follow-up questions. So just be honest. The third thing is to be confident. It's just a discussion. It's not a hard interview. It's all about you and the essays you've written and your stories. So you are the best to know about this. They are just trying to know about you and about your story. So try to be as confident as possible. The fourth thing is maintaining eye contact. And I'm talking whether personally I had my interview online, but when, especially for those who are going to make the interview in person, I think the majority this year are having their interviews in person. It's really important to maintain eye contact. Maintaining the eye contact helps the panel to listen to you. If you are not looking at them, they might be lose you in the middle. So try to maintain the eye contact, and it really shows how confident you are. The last thing, and it's really important, be memorable. Well, in the end, there are many applicants having the interview. Let's say 10, 20, 30% are going to get the scholarship. I believe that the ones who were able to make themselves memorable are the ones who get the scholarship. And you can make yourself memorable in many ways. You can just say something very interesting, something very distinctive. For example, for me, I know that the question that was really the reason I was distinctive was the why the UK, why Chevening, and what other activities are you going to do there? I knew when I was asked this question and I just get the answer, they were impressed. I know that's where when I know that I got the scholarship. So you have to be prepared. You have to let them say, yes, I know the guy who said this, or yes, the guy or the girl who said this part. You have just to catch their attention with something. And that's it. Thank you.
Vane, go ahead, please.
Okay, so it's good that my colleagues and fellow scholars have talked about what to do, like how you're going to prepare for the interview. Now you have prepared, how are you going to deliver what you have prepared? Delivery is everything. When you're having a 30-minute interview, how are you going to sell yourself so that someone invests in you thousands of pounds? So you have to make sure that your delivery is spot on. So your primary goal is to become a Shivna. That's your main goal. For the next few days, as you prepare, as you organize your thoughts, you structure your answers, that's your one goal. So as you're doing that, just ensure that these three things are in mind. But the thing is, Kashif said that you should be honest. And that is these three things are like they're underpinned by that one thing. This is your story. These are your stories. These are your actions, your intentions. So it shouldn't be very hard to convey this to someone. If you have done these things, if you're going to do what you have said in the essays, it should just be, come out very not easily, because of course you are a human being and everything is riding on this. So the 3 steps, next slide please, is you have to be passionate. You're choosing to come for a 1-year rigorous course. You have to be passionate about what you're coming to do. 1 year it can take a toll on you if you don't love and you don't enjoy what you're studying. And for you to convey this, you have to show them that you really, really love what you have stated in your essays. Conviction. How are you going to say it? When you talk to someone and you have great conviction in what you're doing, in what you're going to do, it just comes out very easily. Like, for instance, personally, I know for sure when I talk about my course, I just usually am happy because I love it, I enjoy it. So you speak with a lot of joy when you think about what you're going to do. And then confidence. Yes, you might panic. Of course, you're going to panic. You're a human being, but take a breath. They usually tell you when you get into the interview, you have a glass of water, and if you're gonna need it, take it. Just lean back and catch a breath and then continue speaking. Don't panic in between your sentences and lose focus and lose the whole point which you are trying to drive. And at the end of the day, you're going to get your result. So for these three steps, the key things you should do to ensure that you exude all these three aspects for you to wow and woo the interviewers from from Chevening. Next slide. So you want to become a Chevening scholar. You do not want to go there and mince your words about what you have done and what you're going to do. Please, that is not, it is not the day to go and be modest. Don't be modest. If you have done big things, tell them you have done big things. If you have done small things, tell them you have done small things. As long as you have impacted change, say it, and say it proudly. That's the thing. Don't feel like, I know this time when you're preparing for the interview, I know, and all of us, we can say we watched a lot of videos. And you will watch videos on YouTube and think, oh my goodness, these people have done such great things. I cannot even try to compare. Whatever you have done, if it has gotten you this far, you deserve to be here. So please do not get into that interview and start mincing your words, thinking, oh my God, those interviews I watched, people had done so much. And you are eliminating yourself even before you get into the interview. That is not a mindset you want to have when you're getting into that interview room, whether it's physical, whether it's through the interface. Just go there knowing that whatever you have done has got you the interview and it's your story. So they just want to have a chat. Actually, what we were told is they just want to confirm it's you, basically. So it's just like you're going to talk to them. You're like, I did, in my essay, I said I did this. And you just say that story nicely, following the STAR or the SMART approach, But then now you have to add the human aspect, the passion, the conviction, the confidence. Because people can write essays. A lot of people write essays and people are written for essays. The interview is the human aspect of it all, and you have to sell that. So if you have had impact, because you are in the interview already, you have had impact and you're going to have impact again in the future. So that is what you're going to sell. And make sure you research your area of expertise. Even if you have been in the industry or you have been experienced, or you're trying to move into a whole new professional dimension, just do research. I know for me, I had 1 month to prepare and I was thinking it is a lot. I am reading too much for 30 minutes. Like I would just, every day I'm finding out something new and I'm thinking, is this even going to help me? But at the end of the day, research is everything, because you want to go to the interview with facts. You don't want to, if you're talking statistics about what the UK is doing in your country, these are things they know. So you have to go in there with facts. And when you're talking about this, show joy, be enthusiastic. You're going to do great things, coming to the UK to do what you love. talk about it with so much joy they cannot even try to reject you because they will feel sad. The next one is conviction. This is, as I said, your story. You have done, you're going to do, you intend to do some things. So be very certain when you're talking. Do not look wishy-washy, like you're not sure, you're not sure if you did this or you're going to do that. Just get into the interview and say what you did, say what you're going to do when you come back in the next 10, 15, 5, 10 years. Be very certain and be the belief that you are a winner, that gets you through this aspect of believing. When you trust that you already, actually you should trust you are part of the interview lot, which is an amazing thing so far. So you should trust that you're good enough and you're already a change maker. That's why you're in the interview. Otherwise you wouldn't be. So just prove to them that it's you and you're passionate and you have so much conviction in what you're going to do. And then confidence, as I said. Panic, yes, you can panic for a second, but don't lose sight of what took you into the interview room. As you were told by Kashif, the interview is very short. Time is very crucial. You can talk for as much as they want you to, not for as much as you want. Because they will stop you. Trust me, they stopped me, but I had like 30 seconds left. So they will tell you, we have the interview, when you get into the interview room, you have 30 minutes. These are the 4 questions. And that is to prepare you psychologically so that you have your answers structured already, just to tell you that I have to pace myself to ensure I don't go past the 30-minute cap, because Kenya has a lot of applicants and that's everyone had at most 40 minutes. That is the longest interview anyone had. So if you are going to prepare, just pace yourself, record. I used to walk from work, thank God for masks, recording myself and talking and just interviewing myself, recording and then listening and then checking how much time have I lost, how much time do I need to get to. So, those kind of things, just make sure you are prepared enough so that you don't get cut short, because when they cut you short, you might lose your train of thought. Imagine you're in the middle of describing your amazing career plan and someone tells you time is up. You will panic. That is the panic. You cannot take a sip of water to fix. That is panic, because your train of thought is just lost. You're off track completely. So just make sure you prepare, practice. And when you get into the interview, you're a leader. Sit there and be a leader. Like, I'm not saying be authoritarian, but speak with authority. That's what I mean. Speak with authority. And I believe those are my 3 key things which I believe in. And one of my favorite quotes, because I believe in this quote so much, and you guys can start believing in it as well. So I'm sharing it out there. It's from Muhammad Ali, and it's, once a belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So have deep conviction, and we shall see you here in September. Yeah. That's all
Thank you
from
so
me.
much, guys. Thank you so much. It was like my pleasure to listen to you. And like, I wish 1 minute that get back in the same stage and listening you from this perspective. It was very inspirated me. So let's move on the question time. So now, guys, we already done, and it's your time to ask us a lot of questions, because we know that you are confused and you have a lot of questions. So Mariam is the first one. So go ahead, Mariam, and please be very short and specific and just ask the question directly. Go ahead.
Thank you everyone for organizing this. It's very helpful. I have a question actually. I've been reading the interview questions for the past few years, and I've noticed there's one common question related to the political situation of the candidate's country, and I believe it's a bit sensitive to answer such a question. So, based on your experience, what do you think the best approach would be to answer this question? And if this would affect your chance of getting the scholarship? Thank you.
Can you please also choose the speaker you want to answer?
Um, anyone would like to answer it? It's fine.
Okay, guys, go ahead.
Just to make sure you are asking about stuff related to the political situation, right?
Yes, because I've noted this question, like for example, in Iraq or in Libya or in any uh, country, they would ask about your opinion on the political situation.
I believe you should actually say your opinion in the political situation. I mean that regarding politics, there is always conflicting points of view. You should say what you believe actually the political situation is. Definitely, I do not have to tell you that you shouldn't say anything that's really negative, but try to approach everything from a positive side and a negative side, and you can end it. You can sound um, a bit good by ending it in a good way, like, but hopefully, I believe that might happen in the future, or this good point and this good point would resolve the issue. So I think here, since you are asked about a political situation, first of all, you have to be familiar with the political situation because it's important. We are talking about a leader, one about someone who is a good networker, about someone who has set career objectives, and the career objectives are good enough. Definitely, this someone is aware of the political situation. You can say it straightforward, but without addressing something like all not something negative about the UK. Definitely, that's what I want to say. You have to to be a bit political while answering the political question, but you have to show that you are aware of the situation too, and you have to show that you are looking at something from the positive perspective. That's my own belief.
Thank you so much, Alma. Thank you.
Next one is Celine. I hope that I pronounce your name correctly. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. That's how you pronounce my name. I have two questions, and I would like to ask. I think everyone can answer. I'm okay. So the first question would be, so I've read part of the other Chevening global mentorship programs, talking about some scholars were talking about how important it is to convince Chevening about your future career, like job, once you go back. But considering that I am a student, I just graduated from university and I don't have a job to go back to my country. So how can I talk about my career, even though I will be looking for a job, but how can I make it sound convincing to them, if that makes sense? Okay, and my second question will be, this is just a question for the interview questions. Is it always one question from the four essays? For example, one question about leadership, one about mentorship, one about leadership, one about networking, UK, and career goals. Thank you.
Go ahead, guys.
I think I can answer the first question. Chevening is about your long-term intention, and not everyone is usually has a job when they apply for Chevening, and not everyone goes back to what they were doing before. So your point of convincing is your short term is you can say, or you can mention of a firm or a company that you feel whatever skills you're going to acquire, you will use those skills in that company. So you can say you will network or try and get into that company to use these skills and be impactful in some sort of way because you believe in a vision or the mission. And then you can now continue with your midterm and short-term and long-term plan. Yeah. It's not about convincing them about coming back to your job. It's coming back to your country.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, I can actually confirm what Vane just said, that I personally had 9 years experience at my job in Egypt, and for the career goals in general, even the short-term ones, it had nothing to do with the work I was doing back then. It actually measures how you are aware of the opportunities, how you are aware of the job market, how you are aware of what actually you want to do. So it's just like Lane said, and it has nothing, you don't have to be working on a specific job in order to convince them that you are good enough.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I can answer the second question. Well, normally they will start with one essay, like what I said is that start with an umbrella question in any essays, and then based on what you answer and also what in your essays that you have right, that they will extend more of the question, that a deeper question, and then more and more specific question. So, and then if not until they satisfies with that part of the question, like the leadership theme or what, they can change to other essays as long as they satisfies with your answers. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So next one is Maria Molina. Please go ahead.
Hello, thank you so much for this session. I have two questions. The first one is for Dzung, and I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. It's because you talk about the umbrella questions. So I have heard tips about two different approaches, right? The first approach at the interview is to stick with your essays, right? And the other is to find new examples. And for example, I've been struggle kind of with this question about tell us about an unpopular decision you made. And I haven't talked about that in my essays. So I need to come up with a new example, or should I try to change my examples to the unpopular decision? How could I approach that? Thank you.
Okay, very difficult question. I think that question is also one of the most challenging question to me. Well, I think you can do you can do both way. First, you can choose an example that is outside of your essay that you extend it and explain it clearly. But if you don't have any other good example outside of your essay, you can choose one of your essay and then go deep into one small specific question decision in your example in your essays. But please don't change anything too completely, because that will make the panel question about your authorities. So just maybe can change to another example, and or just choose one of your essay and choose a very slightly more specific situation in your essays that is but doesn't conflict with anything with your essays. I hope I answer it right.
Yes.
I will also add something regarding the topic because I experienced on my interview this question. So I just choose the example not from my essay, and I give them new example, and I emphasize that I just choose when I wrote my essay, I just choose the example that I was proud of and where I presented myself like the best leader or networking leader, future leader. So of course the leaders has challenging time, and I will tell you the example that I had and I experienced, and I give them new example. So nothing wrong happened and I'm here. So maybe if you find in your entire life some leadership experience, because every leader experienced kind of unpopular or maybe unsuccessful stuff, but like try to make this example positively, what you learn after you kind of failed as a leader.
All right. Thank you so much. And my second question, it will be ideal if every one of you could answer it because it's about your interviewing experience. I would like to know what was the hardest question that you were asked during the interview, and how did you approach it? What did you answer? So I think it will be great for all of us to know about your experiences and what was that challenging question for you. Thank you so much.
I won't start. But also to add on what on the previous question is to tell you that if the panel feel like they need more from you, they will tell you. They will ask you. We have read these examples in your essay. Do you have more recent ones? So don't worry if you give the examples in your essay and they're not enough, they'll let you know. And that's not a bad thing. They just want to see how much you have grown from when you last wrote your essay. And my challenging question was, we were asked, one of the question was how to handle competing priorities, and I answered that, and then I had a follow-up. I said how I have been able to manage everything from undergrad to working, how I managed to prioritize and get everything done right on time in school and at work. And then the follow-up question, remember as you're answering this, you always have to use the STAR approach, a competing priority in uni, what the situation, the task, sorry, the action and the result. And I give another example from my professional life. Like I'm involved in a lot of professional bodies. I was working, I was doing the Chevening applications, so, and I managed to deliver at work and whatnot. But then the follow-up question was, what tools do I use to ensure that I deliver in my competing priorities? And because it is normal, these are the things I use. I was like, oh yeah, I use my calendar, my Gmail, of course, planning, for planning, I use my tasks. For time management, I use this, da, 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 da. So you have to think fast on your feet because it might throw you off on a loop. But if it's, again, being honest, if it's something you do, it won't be so hard. I know the question might be twisted in such a way that you might not get like what exactly they want from you. But yeah, you just take a minute and it's okay. You can just tell them, I have not thought about this, so give me a few seconds and I will give you an answer. And that's okay. Just take a minute, think about it, and then give your answer.
Okay. Well, for me, one of my mentors have advised me that in case that I have a question that I couldn't answer directly, I should tell them that, well, I need a few moments to reorganize my ideas instead of come up with idea, because you already have everything. Now you need to organize how to answer it perfectly. So they are very welcome. And in my case, they let me about 1 or 2 minutes for me to draft out of my ideas. And my question that I have struggled with was that because in my essay I said I want to initiate a department at my work, and I want to be a head of department. So they asked that who do I need to influence in order to achieve that. And well, I take a few moments and I draft out a few of the stakeholders that can influence that. And I chose like the head of the department, head of the institute, or those who work with me, and also those who are outside of the department. Think of as many of the stakeholders as possible. So yeah, that is actually, even if the difficult question, if you because you should always prepare for the unexpected thing, and it's okay if you take a few moments, and or you can even say that maybe I haven't thought enough about that, but try to be honest. Yeah.
Well, for me, it was a bit like veins. I was asked about, well, now imagine you have a conflict with someone and you are in a position of weakness. What are you going to deal? How are you going to deal with this situation? And I actually used uh, something from work before, because my work nature, it can put me in conflict with some departments at the hospital I used to work back then. So I just mentioned that yes, that already happened. I had some conflicts with the heads of the departments that are sometimes 30 and 40 years older than me and much more experienced than me, so I'm definitely in a position of weakness. And I told them how I tackle dealing with these situations, that I try to find a common ground and what I already done in the situations before, and then I try just to find something that is common or a common ground between the two departments, our and the other's department. So it would just like this. It came spontaneously during the interview, and just like Bain said, you have, well, now I don't know, I haven't prepared for this. Please give me half a minute or a minute. I'm going to think about it. So actually, following the umbrella of preparing, like Dzung said before, umbrella, and a lot of situations you prepare something wide about the leadership, it can get you some hints of where you can start. So it was actually a part of my leadership and how we started at the department and the difficulties we faced in the department when I started the department at the hospital, and it's where I started.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. So next one in my list is Gasan Suft. I don't know, guys, if I pronounce correctly. If not, please take my apologies. Go ahead, Gasan.
Thank you all for sharing your experience. Yes, Maya, you pronounce my name very well. Actually, I have a question from the general questions that you have shared through your email. Give us an example of internationally recognized leader and another who is close to you, and what the potential that made him to succeed are. In case I don't have a close one, and I should be honest, what shall I answer?
Sorry, I think I don't get the question because on the background was very loud. Could you
Okay.
please repeat, or maybe typing on the chat?
Because of the road, I can say it, Ghassan, and you tell me whether it's right or not, okay? Because yes, there is a lot of noise around you. Well, Ghassan was asking that one of the questions that has been on the list of the questions you sent them was talking about a leader, an international leader, and a leader who is close to him. So he doesn't know any leader that is close to him. So should he be honest or not, right? That was your question, Hassan, right?
Yes, Sam.
Thank you so much. I did not catch it. So, guys, you can answer because I hope, like, I'm more than sure that they also ask you about the leader who was familiar for you or close in your personality. Go ahead.
I can take it as well. Well, for the leader who's close to you, it can actually be anyone. Anyone who has done any action of leadership. It can be your brother, it can be your father, it can be your mother, it can be actually anyone who has passed through a situation who has shown to be a leader. But what's important here, whether you are talking about the international one or the one who is close to you, is that you have a rationale. Why do you believe he's a good leader? So, for example, you can talk about your brother and how your brother helped a certain organization or people at a disadvantage or has started an initiative and had good results with these initiatives. So it can actually be anything. What's actually important is that you justify why this one you believe is a good leader because it actually reflects your point of view of who would be a good leader and what qualities would make any person a good leader. So that's the important point. Just mention the person and the qualities that made you believe he is a good leader and make sure that it reflects how you think. So you deliver to them what qualities you think actually are those of a leader.
Thank you, Amir.
Um, so next one in my list is Hayat Bella. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity. So my question is the question like, what challenges do you think you may have while studying in the UK? I find it quite challenging to answer this question because what I had in mind is basically talking about the cultural shock when you move to other culture, but I find it quite conflicting with the concept of leadership that we're supposed to defend in the day of the interview. So I'm asking the alumni that are present with us today to help at least navigate an answer for this question. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, go ahead. I think it's better if like some of you just directly answer after the question.
Okay. Actually, there is no. That is a personal question. What do you think is going to be a challenge for you? So I don't think there's a wrong way to answer that, because if weather is going to be a challenge to you, it is the right answer. If the 1 year rigorousness of the course is going to be a challenge, that is also an answer. So I believe if you like, unless you want to say it in a star kind of approach, which if you want to incorporate it into an example might be quite heavy and might distort your examples, I believe, then just stick to the basics. You're going to have a hard time, homesickness, blah, 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 those things.
I can ask about this. Well, the point of this question is to want to know about how much you understand about the UK life and also how you can handle the struggle during life. So even I agree with Ben that is your personals and you can be anything, but well, it will show you should choose something that is well only the UK culture or like and focus more on how you can handle that struggles that would be more important in problem solving. So
Thank you so much. I have another question. Are all the questions supposed to be answered in a star format, or sometimes you can go informal and answer like we're just simply answering?
I guess it depends. If the question asks about your experience, it should be star. But like if in the future, if they ask about who and how the church scholarship can help you, you should go into the 5 why and 1 how, like I said. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Next one is Abagana. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to attend this webinar, and it is very great webinar for us today. My question is that how can we approach a question such as tell us about yourself? Is there any strategies that you feel is better we use during the interview in order to make a good sense of the question?
Guys, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't
I'm
get
sorry,
the
I
question.
didn't catch the question. I'm sorry.
The question was like, if when panelists ask you introduce yourself, is it some approaches to answer this question, or you just have to be simple?
Well, I believe that depends, because sometimes it's just introduce yourself, and sometimes it's introduce yourself briefly, or other of those who have been interviewed, introduce yourself in 30 seconds. So it actually depends on how are you required to introduce yourself. But if you are going to talk generally, maybe you can just be simple, because in the beginning they will introduce themselves to you. You can just follow the same format they are using, or you can prepare another format. For example, you are going to be a bit organized. You are going to start with your education, and then you are going to start with the work experience, and then you are going to start to go for your hobbies. And so you have to structure it in order that you can remember or memorize and deliver it to them, and for them it would be easy to understand. So the introduce yourself question, although it's not a part of the actual interview, and they will tell you after the interview question, after we are done with the introduction question, that the official interview is going to start. But it's actually tell them a lot about you, and you have to deliver this question in a good and organized and a reasonable way in order to just make them engaged with you. So just be organized. You can just prepare something that's very brief. You can prepare a longer response to this question as well, but try to be organized to both memorize it and allow them to really know about you.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, if your interview is online, please unmute yourself every time you are going to answer, because I'm speaking and I realized that it was muted. So in my list, next one is Abdallah. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I have a question. If I have uploaded an unconditional offer from a university that not in my essay, they could ask me why you choose another university. So how can I answer them this and convince them?
Hi. Well, you can focus on why you want to change, why you want to choose that university rather than why do you want to change. For example, like if that university is more aligned to your career plan and they have the modules that is more exciting to you and helpful to you, so it would be better. It just very simple. And I think at this stage, it's always possible to change your university as long as it aligns to your career plan.
So, Elfiana Amaral, please go ahead. Abdallah, do you had any other question?
No, I just want to say thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So go ahead, Elfiana, please.
First of all, thank you very much for organizing this. My question is, how to best answer this question, why UK? Should we be flexible in answering that? Like, for example, we like the climate or we want to visit places. And I read somewhere that there is a following question about that, like comparing UK to your home country. Thank you.
So when you get into the interview, they will tell you, we are going to ask you 4 questions, which introduce yourself is not part of it. So when they ask you why UK, context matters. If they're asking you why UK and you have not had a chance to talk about your university and your courses and how they're going to help you like fill the gaps within you and help your country, then at that point you have to know that the going to visit or tour is, as much as it's part of the experience, is not the main reason why. So at that point, when they ask you why UK, just analyze. Do they want my courses because I only have this one question left to tackle everything, or is it like a follow-up? So context is very important. So it can be about your courses, it can be about the amazing rainy weather, or just touring and enjoying the British culture. So just make sure you know the context.
I would also want to ask that personal is very important. Well, you have 100 candidates, and what makes you stand out is a little bit of yourself, a little bit personal, something about you, about the UK, and tell a good story about that, just in a simple way. So yeah.
So next one in my list is Alcaguanaran. Elcaguaranan, please go ahead. If I pronounce your name incorrectly, please, I apologize.
Hello, everyone. Maya, this is, yeah, my name is really hard to pronounce, but you said correctly. Thank you. And so my question is that I'm someone is on mute. And okay, so there, since I submitted my essays in last November, and there was a radical change in our company's policy and also in our industry. And so now I am leading, in relation to that, I am leading one project at my company. So I would like to mention about this project in the uh, in response to the question of why Chevening or why London, and also career plan. So, and do you think is it appropriate or inappropriate to talk about the things that I did not mention in my essays? Thank you very much.
Okay. I will share my experience in one of my friends. So my experience was I had, of course, after you submit your essays, you have like a few months, right? Yeah, like to
4
to have
months.
something, to have some like responsibilities or roles change, or just have a new experiences. So when I was asked about an unpopular decision I ever made as a leader, I used one of my examples from the essay and then a recent one that I had encountered during the period after I had submitted my essays. And they were amazed. They were like, that is something that happened, because when you're talking about something that happens, you have to give dates, so that again you have to have legitimacy of the story. Like I was November this happened, and they're like, oh, November. Of course, in their head they know you had submitted your essays. So when you're talking about your something that has happened after, just make sure you give the time period so that they know it is something recent. So it's not a problem, but just don't go off, don't have all your examples totally new, because again, they want to validate it's you, and everything is new. It's going to be very confusing for them to identify if it's really you or not, or these are essays you got from someone life story. So just throw in something for them to, oh, that's Vane. Just throw in an example they have read in the essay. Yeah. But you can say, as long as you feel like it's weighty and it's going to get you the interview, just say it. When you're giving examples, weigh them. The one that shows how much you learned or how much impact you had, of course, is top priority. And if that's a recent one, use that.
Thank you
Can
so
I
much.
just add something? I believe if you are not able to include this one, or you feel it's gonna be so much to include it elsewhere, I believe maybe at the end of the leadership, you can just touch on it. When you just mention something about the leadership qualities, and for these qualities, that's actually why I've recently been appointed as this, and this, because my supervisors or whoever who's responsible for the appointment believe that I have this quality. You are giving them an example. It's something new they have never seen before, and actually you are not losing much focus or putting so much effort into this. You are not confusing them, and at the same time you would be touching on it.
Thank you, guys.
Got it very much.
Last four question, please. Mia, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. It's pronounced Maya, by the way. Thanks. So I have two questions. First question being one that I sort of struggle when it comes to answering questions. I tend to always start with so, or so. Well, I've said it again. Do you have any advice on that? What would be the best way to start answering the questions that they give? Okay.
So I didn't get it.
You want me to repeat? Sorry?
Yeah, please.
Okay, no problem. Right. I was saying that I struggle with when it comes to answering my questions. When I did a mock interview, I realized that I tend to start my answers with so or immediately. Do you have any advice on that? What is the best approach to starting to answer the questions?
So just to check, it's all about that during the mock interviews, you just go directly into the subject, or you are not. That's what you meant?
Yes.
No,
Okay, as we mentioned before, uh, it's all about organizing. You have to practice again, and again. Before practicing, you have to prepare the answer. For example, for the leadership, well, now I have a plan. If I was asked about just one example of leadership, I'm going to start with this one, this one, this one, and then you follow the STAR approach. You start with the situation, then the task, then the action, and the result. Maybe writing them down would help. Maybe just the keywords, a couple of keywords for each of the examples would help to guide you where you should be start and where you should be transitioning to the next point. But again, it comes with practice. I personally experienced this before, and with just practicing and using keywords and knowing that for each question, my response, I'm going to start with this, it might help, I believe.
Mia, you had the second question.
Yes, right.
Go
So the
ahead.
second question is that when I was speaking to someone during the mock interview as well, they suggested that I could walk with a notebook with some of my points jotted down in the instance that I fumble or forget anything. And I just wanted to ask, because that person wasn't a Chevening scholar in the past. Just wanted to ask some Chevening scholars their thoughts on that, like walking with a notebook and also having questions prepared for them in case they ask as well.
Vane, do you want to answer?
Okay, I will try and answer this appropriately. So you can have pointers, like, just pointers of what you're going to say, but just make sure they do not draw your attention away from the screen, so that you're looking at the pointers instead of talking to your panelists. Yeah, but they recommend, at least for us back in Kenya, they told us we could have a notebook on the side. So if you have pointers, sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So next one is Don. Go ahead. And next, we will stay 2 questions and we will finish this session because we are already almost 1 hour and a half. So you can ask us question for next session. Don, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is addressed to Maya, yourself. You mentioned some minutes ago about if your interview is online, I didn't get what you said. You just gave some tips like for people who do their interviews online. So I want to if you may repeat for me the tips you gave so that because me I do it online, so I would want to be sure.
So I mentioned that my interview was online, but question was, sorry, I just struggled understanding the question.
Yeah. You said if your interview will be online, guys, make sure you. I didn't get
unmute yourself. Unmute yourself because
okay, thank you.
I realized that sometimes I'm speaking and you did not hear my voice, and then I realized that I just muted myself. So whenever you have an interview online, please make sure that you unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. So Morrison, you are next one. Go ahead, please.
Hello, everyone.
Morrison, okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Oh, thank you for the opportunity. My question is, when it comes to when they ask you, the panelists ask you this question that in 10 years, where do you see yourself when given this opportunity or given this scholarship? It knocked me out last time because I thought they were asking about the long-term career plan, and later on when I discussed with an alumni, he told me that I'm supposed to discuss the short term, mid term, and the long term. And the other question is, when they tell you about, tell us about yourself, do you have to discuss your achievements, or how do you go about it? Thank you.
So I'll start with question 2. Tell us about yourself. It's just they just want like how an icebreaker because they want to know who they're talking to. Also remember this question is not a part of the score matrix. So it's just tell them your name, your undergrad or your education background, your professional background if you're working, and if you're volunteering or something, just mentioning, don't dive into what you have done and what you have achieved because it's 1 minute, 1 minute 30 seconds. And then for the career plan, it is very tricky because yeah, it's very confusing when someone asks you in 10 years. But then it's the critical aspect of it. In 10 years time, something I did 5 years is going to have instilled something in me that's going to make me a better leader in 10 years. So your short-term goals are linked to your mid-term and they're linked to your long-term because you cannot, just jump straight into 10 years. You have to show the progression until you got to becoming whatever you stated during the interview. So like it's just a cycle. Just remember that whatever you are learning, you're going to put it into use somewhere when you get back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, then you are going to achieve your short-term goal, and then your short-term goal is going to be linked to your mid-term goal. Your mid-term goal is going to be linked, it's a process. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for the answer.
And our last question for today, Fares Sai, go ahead. Guys, again, our last question for today is Faresa, go ahead.
Hello. Firstly, thank you everyone for this information. I just wanted to ask one thing. So at the end of the interview, they generally ask us if we have any questions for them. So in that sort of situation, given they have provided all of the information on their website, what sort of questions can we possibly ask them? Thank you.
Well, I can take this. I believe there are two approaches. You can just, if you actually have a question that you want to know about studying there or whatever, you can just ask it. But for me, actually, I went with another approach that I'm actually engaged with them. So you know that, well, they asked you a lot about yourself. Now it might be the turn. I actually asked the three of the panelists. Each one of them had a question for me. And it was all about them. Well, for the Chevening alumnus after she came back. I know well. I want to know what have you done since then. How did your studies in the UK affect the way you think and all of this stuff. I asked the head. I cannot remember the question I asked for the head of the Chevening in Egypt, but I asked her a question. Yes, I asked her about the activities of. I searched and I pointed on it in the interview of the activity of the Chevening network in Egypt and how have they been doing and how have they been improving. And I also touched on my plans for improving how they communicate. But I asked her in the end what actually are her plans or how does she evaluate or see what the network has been doing, because I've learned from the scholars, but I have never learned from or heard from the head of Chevening in Egypt. So just you can ask a question that you need to know answers to, or you answer or you ask questions that show that you are actually engaged with them, that it's now going both ways. I believe it would leave a positive impression about you.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
And you are not evaluated by this, by the way. I need to tell you, because they tell you in the end, after the 4 basic questions, that this was the end of your interview. So just focus on the previous parts, but it's always good because we as humans, it's always good to leave a positive impression about you or show them that, well, I liked the interview, I liked the process or whatever.
Yes, I unmute myself. Thank you so much, everyone. Our today's session is already finished. So can you please change the slide? Because I want to inform you that tomorrow also is the next session. You can come, guys, and ask you also another question, because I saw a lot of raising hands, but we can't going through and unfortunately answer it today. Thank you so much for your time, for engaging, and I hope that most of you are coming here next year and will be the same page as we are today. Good night. Good day. Some countries are day. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Goodbye. Good luck.